The world has witnessed countless feats of engineering brilliance, bridges that span entire bays, skyscrapers that scrape the heavens, tunnels that burrow beneath the seas. Yet few stories capture the same level of raw drama, scale, and human determination as that of the Ape Matrix oil platform, a floating city of steel so massive it dwarfs aircraft carriers, and redefines what it means to challenge the elements. Standing a staggering 16 stories tall and stretching wider than 2 football fields, Ape Matrix is no ordinary offshore structure. It weighs more than the world's largest war machines, more than some skyscrapers, and contains enough steel to build an entire skyline. Today, it sits in the Gulf of Mexico, 134 kilometers off the coast of Louisiana, silently pumping the lifeblood of modern civilization oil. But its journey from blueprint to reality was anything but silent. What many don't know is that its story began thousands of miles away in South Korea. Inside sprawling shipyards where sparks flew day and night, an army of engineers, welders, designers, and workers toiled for years to give shape to this steel giant. It was the largest project ever attempted by the company, a project that demanded perfection because even the smallest mistake could cost lives and billions of dollars. After years of relentless work, the Ape Matrix finally stood complete. But as one chapter closed, another even more dangerous began. The challenge now wasn't building the platform. It was transporting it across the oceans. The challenge of moving a giant. Moving an offshore oil platform is no ordinary job. The Ape Matrix wasn't designed to crawl across highways like oversized construction equipment. It was too heavy, too wide, too tall. The only way to move it was by sea, and not just any ship could handle the job. The company turned to the Ape Coil, the world's largest marine transport vessel. Imagine a ship the size of several football fields, capable of carrying entire oil rigs across oceans. The plan was simple on paper. Lift the platform, carefully load it onto the Ape Coil, and set sail toward the Gulf of Mexico. But simple on paper meant weeks of preparation in reality. Hydraulic jacks had to shift thousands of tons of steel with surgical precision. The platform had to be inched onto a floating dry dock before tugboats could guide it to Masan port. There, the Ape Coil would sink its ballast tanks, letting water flood in, and the platform would be floated on top. Then, the ship would expel the water, rise up, and lock the platform securely for its journey. The whole process was expected to take at least 7 days. 7 days of calm seas, careful alignment, and meticulous teamwork. But fate had other plans. The storm that shouldn't exist. Just as preparations were underway, meteorologists delivered terrifying news. A monstrous storm had formed in the Pacific. Not just any storm, a super typhoon, the kind that appears once every 20 years. With winds screaming at 315 kilometers per hour, it was barreling directly toward South Korea. Suddenly, the team's schedule collapsed. They no longer had a week. They had only 3 days. If they failed, the platform would be trapped in the shipyard, as the typhoon struck billions of dollars and years of work reduced to twisted wreckage in a matter of hours. The weight of the crisis fell on everyone from top management, staring at weather charts and command centers, to exhausted workers sweating under their helmets on the dock. There was no room for error, no margin for hesitation. And so began the race against time. An army awakens. To compress 7 days of work into just 3, reinforcements were called. An army of workers flooded the shipyard. Welders, riggers, crane operators, engineers, and safety crews. Day turned into night, and night into day. But the work never stopped. Sparks lit the sky as welding torches burned through the dark. Engines roared as cranes swung massive steel beams into place. Every worker knew the stakes. One delay, one mistake, and everything could be lost. The company's greatest project could vanish beneath the fury of the sea. Meanwhile, meteorologists tracked the storm with grim precision. Hopes flickered that perhaps the typhoon would veer off its course, but nature was merciless. Each new forecast confirmed the same path, straight toward South Korea. The countdown had begun, the impossible lift. Hydraulic jacks, some of the largest ever built, were deployed to move the 431 zero-ton platform. To put that in perspective, the steel used in Ape Matrix outweighed even the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest skyscraper. Slowly, inch by inch, the platform crept upward, lifted by the relentless power of machines, designed to push against the impossible. The structure groaned and shuddered, but it held. With painstaking care, the team slid it onto a floating dry dock. Tugboats strained against their ropes, pulling the Colossus away from the shipyard. Masan port awaited, and with it, the Ape Coil. But time was running out. The ocean turns hostile. The seas around South Korea were no longer calm. The typhoon's outer bands had begun whipping the coast, raising waves and tearing across the sky with violent winds. The loading process, already delicate, now teetered on the edge of disaster. Loading a structure as massive as Ape Matrix requires precision. The transport vessel sinks itself into the sea, creating a controlled dock, and the platform is carefully floated into position. Once aligned, the vessel expels water from its ballast tanks, rising and locking the structure into place. But this delicate dance cannot be performed in stormy seas. Waves would throw the alignment off by mere centimeters, enough to shear steel and cause catastrophic failure. If that happened, both the vessel and the platform would be lost. The engineers knew it, the workers knew it, and the clock was down to 36 hours. A sliver of hope. Then, against all odds, a message came from the meteorological team. A small 2-hour window of calm seas was expected the next morning. 2 hours. That was all they would get. If they failed within that sliver of time, there would be no second chances. At dawn, the seas stilled. The wind dropped. The ocean fell quiet, as if nature itself was holding its breath. The order was given. The operation began. The final gamble. Engines roared, tugboats pulled, engineers shouted commands through radios, their voices tight with urgency. The platform inched closer, centimeter by centimeter, guided into place. Every eye was locked on the alignment. Every muscle strained. Sweat rolled down faces, even in the cold morning air. And then it happened. The ape matrix slid perfectly into position. The ape coil expelled its ballast water, rising beneath the platform. Slowly, the Colossus lifted above the sea, locked in place. Cheers erupted across the dock. Relief washed over the exhausted crew. Hours before the typhoon struck, the ape matrix was secured and sailing away from danger. The typhoon strikes. When the super typhoon finally hit South Korea, it did so with terrifying force. Winds flattened trees, tore roofs from buildings, and churned the seas into chaos. The coast was battered, and ports were ravaged. Had Ape Matrix still been in the shipyard, it would have been obliterated. Years of labor, billions in investment, and the pride of thousands of workers would have been gone in an instant. Instead, the platform was already on its way to the Gulf of Mexico, a victory carved from desperation, a triumph against one of the most violent forces of nature. A monument to grit. Today, the Ape Matrix stands in the Gulf as more than just an oil platform. It is a monument to engineering genius, human determination, and the courage of those who refuse to bow to fate. Behind its silent steel walls is a story few know, a story of workers who raced against time, engineers who gambled everything, and a storm that could have ended it all. It is a reminder that behind every towering structure lies a hidden struggle, battles fought in silence, and victories that hang by the thinnest of threads. And so, the Ape Matrix survived not just as an oil platform, but as a monument to human grit, engineering genius, and a race against time that defied the fury of nature itself. But if this story has taught us anything, it's that behind every towering structure, behind every massive machine, lies a hidden struggle, battles fought in silence, sacrifices never seen, and victories that hang by the thinnest of threads. The question is, what other secrets are still out there? What other megastructures carry untold stories of near disaster, silent heroes, and impossible odds? Stay tuned, because the world is full of these hidden battles, and we'll uncover them one by one. If you found this journey as breathtaking as we did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next untold story. This was the race against the Super Typhoon, and it was only the beginning.